I'd like to welcome everyone to the West Coast Wilderness Trail Subcommittee meeting 3 December 2020. I'd like to welcome Jackie on live stream and Jeff, and also the new doctor there.
Yeah, kia ora, I'm Gwenny Coleman, so I'm covering Nicole's role for the next couple of months.
Welcome.
Well, she's off somewhere else.
Good stuff. The first is apologies. We've got apologies from Councillor Haddock, Councillor Hay, Mr. Morris, the Chief Executive, Jay Wood, who's the new Trail Chair, and Councillor Becker, and the worship. So someone like to move that we receive and accept these apologies.
Oh,
Okay, and I'll second that. Anyone in favour, say aye. Aye. The declaration of interest, that's been, you can hand that out. Also, there's an electronic copy that's been circulated. Are there any urgent items to go onto the agenda?
Not from staff, Chair.
Okay. So going to item 4, that's the minutes of the meeting, 13 October 2020. Would someone like to move that the West Coast Wilderness Trail Subcommittee meeting held on the 30th of October 2020 be confirmed and a true, correct record of the meeting? I'd like to move that myself. We've got a second.
what's in here?
Tim?
No, okay, because I wasn't
Oh, you went there.
Jackie.
Jackie, would you like to say? Thank you, Jackie. So, I approve that my digital signature be added to the confirmed West Coast Wilderness Trail Subcommittee meeting minutes of 13 October 2020. Item 5, the action list, and that will be presented by Simon Basting, the Chief Executive.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Point 1, Milltown Weir Crossing. There has been a site visit and I suppose a new route proposed. I believe consultation and some design concepts have been considered by the master track builder, yet to be ratified yet. And the second point, Mahanapua Historic Bridge Highway Crossing. We still need to coordinate a site visit to do some evaluation work around the risk involved with crossing there. Yet to be done.
Are there any questions or any comments on those at all? I'd like to move that the update action list be received. I'll move that. Second. Tim. Item 6, the next presentation, and it's from Jeff Gabatese from the South Trail Conference verbal update. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Tanker. So I think there we go. So just a couple of comments that I'll make as we scroll through this the screen. Diane, are you able to move it on when I give you the nod?
Yes.
Okay, thanks very much. So this is part of the presentation that MB gave at the NZCT conference in Wellington earlier on this month. So go to the next one. And what they wanted to highlight was the things that have happened. So probably the biggest change, or two major items, has been the 3-year OPEX funding per Great Ride. So this is $45,000 per 22 trails to fund the trail managers. So NZCT is certainly seen as an enormous difference in trail performance when you have a full-time manager, or a full or part-time manager, definitely a paid one. And so this is what we've been pushing for some time. And MB did that. They also provided NZCT with 3 years of baseline funding as well. And just to show that the MB largest wasn't without a bottomless pit, what they did was took this out of the Managing Great Rides Fund. So took it out of the $8 million that government have allocated it and have repurposed it. So no new money, but it's repurposing there. Within the next lot, the interesting issue is the QA framework. So currently we've worked on a process whereby trails have an annual warrant of fitness, and MB were keen to ensure that we had some process of looking at some bigger issues, more engineering issues on a regular basis, being potentially every 5 years. So whilst we retain the warrant of fitness for those trails that aren't yet scoring 4 or above, there will be developing a process to give us a quality assurance whereby we get somebody externally that would be qualified as relevant, and they'll be looking at things like the maintenance program around some of the major structures and infrastructure along the way. The next one down is the counter data report, which we're going to cover off in a minute. And then the importance of the strategic governance group, which we'll cover off as we go through. So Diane, if we just go to the next screen. No. And so what's interesting here is that they have now done a review of all of the trails. You can see there's some enormous numbers that are being put out there. And what surprised us, I guess, is the strength of the pedestrian sector, which we'll pick up. The formula is going to be the one that they'll use, but I guess we'd all sort of say that it's raised, the numbers have raised some eyebrows, and I'm sure a number of us will scratch our heads and go, some of these numbers don't seem quite right, but they have been peer reviewed by Jonathan Kennett and his consultant, so they believe that they've got a formula. So we'll see the ramifications of that on the next screen, I think, Diane. So here's the overall, and what's interesting in here is to see the quite large disparity where you've got trails that are operating close to major urban centres. So if you look at those first 3, they've got a very strong numbers, 250,000 up for the Tasman Great Taste, Remutaka at 200,000, and then it drops away quite markedly. And that's about all I would take from that screen. So if we go to the next one, we're going to start to see what happens when you strip out the cycling from the walking. So the Otago Central Rail Trail, 13,000. I think DOC were feeling that at its peak, the Otago Central Rail Trail was doing about 17 to 19,000 of the multi-day ride. So the Otago Central Rail Trail has got history, and as a result, you've got these. I mean, as we all know, it's the matriarch trail that everybody lives by, and so it's really comforting then to see the West Coast Wilderness sitting in there at number 3. And I think we can sort of take some heed from the duration of the trail as well. So the Timber Trail is a 2-day trail. The West Coast Wilderness is a 3 to 4. The Twin Coast is just a 2-day trail, and the Copper Mine is a 1-day. The Old Ghost Road, those numbers seem remarkably low, given that I think their overall numbers are about 14,000. Well, between 11 and 14,000, maybe 12. And then we fall off quite quickly. So I think overall there is a number of trails that really scratch their head when they look at those numbers. And you know, we operate obviously on the Ox to Ocean, so you can see there at 3,000 multi-day riders. Doubtless there are considerably more 1-day riders in there, but only according to the counters recording 3,000 for the full trail.
Jeffrey, can I ask a question?
Yes, certainly.
So, how do they quantify if they've done more than 1 day using counters? That would be hard unless there's a unique identifier, surely.
Well, yes, I understand. The best thing to do is to look at the formula that they have applied, and there is a logic behind where they've come to their numbers from. And I wouldn't try to explain it, but they've got a different formula relating to almost each of the counters. So it's worthwhile understanding where that logic comes from to then have a look at the final numbers. But you're right that unless you've got some way of perhaps intercepting each of your riders and questioning them, everything else is going to have to be done by a series of calculations.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question?
Yep, thank you.
Just to come in there, Simon, the counters, if the counter down in Ross, obviously does not have the same number of part-time riders, so that's a good signal for us in terms of how many are completing the full trail. And the other one, now that we've got the one up in Kawaka too, the more remoter part of it, but certainly that Ross counter is a good indicator of how many are doing the full trail.
Okay, fine. Let's go to the next one, because this one records the breakdown, and we can see this. We'll pass on this one reasonably quickly, but you can see the breakdown between cyclists in the blue and walkers in the orange. And if you look out on the right-hand side, you'll see that the Ox to Ocean numbers look really, really weird. They look really weird. But the Wilderness Trail sits in there at, I think, number 10 when I looked at that. And we've got, we sit at about a 50-50 break, cyclists to pedestrians. And the interesting thing with that is that we would never have built the trail thinking that we were going to get this degree of pedestrian usage. And the relevance of it, I guess, is for the councils to look at this as being a fitness and well-being exercise benefit that you're bringing to the local community as part of your amenities and recreation. So we'll go to the next one, which gives us what? Okay, that's the end of that one. So that just gives us a rundown on the breaks between the cycling and walking. The takeouts are that the Wilderness Trail has got around about 5,500 multi-day riders. To give you a picture of what it could look like, they take on the Otago Central Rail Trail, which is currently sitting at 13,000. And as more numbers come into the marketplace, so also will the infrastructure build around it. So you will see more tier 1 type providers. There will be more accommodation. And as a reflection on the Wilderness Trail, we are starting to creep somewhat because we've got some quite constrained, we've got 3 quite popular locations and capacity is getting constrained in there. So we'll move on from there. The counters, I don't think I need to tell people about how the counters can be impacted by conditions around there. So we've had some ridiculous counter numbers because traffic flows across in front of them. So this screen here just is to cover the development of a new strategic governance group. So it's an across agencies one. So you can see we've got NZCT, MBDoc, NZTA. And part of the rationale behind this is that we were seeing that there was a complete lack of interagency interactions. So, and the classic, I think, would be over the lockdown, we saw a $9 million allocated for a cycle trail in Northland that NZCT knew nothing about. Jonathan Kennett, who's basically Mr. Cycle, knew nothing about. And more importantly, neither did MB, who are generally the money people. So what we've had in the past is being able to have ministers pick up and fund something, usually through the PGF fund, and then popping out. And so we've now got, last count I've got is there's at least 4 trails that amount to 36 and 9, $45 million that are going to be completed within the next 4 years that will, at the moment, sit outside the NZCT umbrella, or the Great Rides umbrella, which means that they won't get access to ongoing trail maintenance funding, which is sort of a good thing for the 22 trails in-house. But if we extend to include all of those people, then it's going to increase the competition for funding for strategic maintenance and extensions, and in particular weather events. So this is a particularly important new addition to the governance structure. Everybody happy with that one? Okay, Diane, we'll go to the next, which is the $8 million. There is this New Zealand Naharinga Cycle Trail Fund, $8 million. You can see in here we do have an extreme recovery event. We took out the two lots of 250 for NZCT and the work that they're doing, and the Great Ride OPEX relates to the trail manager funding. And then what we've got left is the E&E fund, which is the enhancements and extensions. And then you've also got the MGR fund, which is 750,000.
So, Jeff, just based on, I suppose, the last 12 months, for the E&E, how has that been allocated? Is that based on applications? And because the 4.5 won't go far across 22 rides.
You're right, indeed. And so I think the next screen covers off some of that, if I've got this one right. There we go. So what's happened, Simon, is that a number of trails have applied, and as I understand it, some of this money is already allocated into the future. So the message that we are definitely hearing from MB is that there won't be a lot of money floating around. They may be able to repurpose funds, but there certainly won't be money for new trails as the government deals with the economic fallout. So you can see some commitments in there. The Great Taste Trail is funded now basically to a completion stage. The Lake Dunstan Trail is part of the $24 million of super trail funding. So they had they raised 12.5 million themselves, and they got a commitment of 12.5. And I'm not sure who that commitment's from, but they've got it there to put the trail from Queenstown down through the Karaa Gorge into Cromwell, and then from Cromwell through into Clyde. And then there's another $9 million which has been committed from the PGF at the very bottom from Lawrence into Milton and then up to Lake Waihola. So I think one of the characteristics in the next few years is based around some very, very tight funding arrangements. But at the same time, I keep on hearing the government saying, give us your issues around safety in particular, because they very much want to be able to say that these trails have now been completed to a high standard of safety and everything else. So I just find the messaging somewhat conflicting. Simon, you've probably got more feedback on what it's like to apply for these funds than I have.
Yeah, it's a challenge in terms of our aspirations. We could spend all that 4.5 ourselves in the first year. So the challenges around the cost, particularly safety elements, some big ticket items that we need to address on our trial, which I'll go through shortly.
Right. Because as I understand it, if we've got a strong case around safety, somehow money may be available. But yeah, I've taken the I suppose the mandate around the 75%, 25% share. So 25 from us and 75 from Wellington. Yeah. That still puts this small council into a bit of a bind around affordability to resolve some of them. So I'm going to present that to the committee after this. Okay. So I think the next one is an interesting graphic, actually. Diane, if we just go to that one. So there's two more screens on here. This is who's got the money, and it's really interesting to see the places that have been active about applying. And you can see this is broken down as well by extreme events. So immediately I sort of sit there and you look at the West Coast Wilderness, because we certainly understand extreme events over there, but you can see that it's not particularly significant. Well, it's not as bad as the Ox to Ocean sitting there with its with the money that it applied for to handle the flooding in the lower section of the Ox to Ocean 2 years ago. So the Wilderness Trail sits in there. We've had a reasonable amount of MGR money, and not all of it has been for flood of extreme events. So I think what that says is what that says is we've built the trail really well early on, and congratulations to those people that made those sorts of decisions. So just another point of clarification, some of the money we got didn't come through MGR as well, came through PGF, right. Allocated through PGF. Yeah. Okay, and then I think this next one is the last screen, Diane, which is the extreme events. And if you're good at crystal ball gazing, you might have a view on what 2022 is going to look like. You can see that we were tracking along, not too many major events until 2018. And then we had a relaxed 2019, and then 2020 came in and hit us around the head again as well. So this is it's just an interesting graphics, I guess, to understand how many sorts of extreme events that we have looked at, and whether or not over time we're going to see more and more of these events. So I think that's the end of that presentation. Happy if there's any questions, otherwise I'll let you get on with your jobs.
Yeah, Jeff, Tanker here. I just, first of all, I understand Paul Madgett is online. Welcome aboard, Paul.
Yep, thank you. Apologies for lateness.
Yeah. The question, Jeff, is the timber trail. Whereabouts is that?
The timber trail is in the Karori State Forest. So just slightly to the west of it is Taumarunui, slightly to the east of it is Lake Taupo,
Okay.
And the reason that you've got some big numbers out of their tanker is that it's the best 2-day mountain bike ride in the country, I believe, and it's got that huge network of cities across the Bay of Plenty, Hamilton, Auckland, all within sort of a 5 hours drive of those centres.
Oh, that's good. It'd be quite good to go and visit that just to share that experience.
Yes, absolutely stunning ride. Again, they know what bad weather looks like, and they've built a really good trail, I think, that's been able to handle most of that type of weather conditions. So,
Thanks, Jeff. And the other question I have, Jeff, is the length of that Dunstan Trail.
the length of
The Dunstan Trail.
yes. Anchor, it's hard to give you an accurate one because that trail links Hawea down to Wanaka around the Clutha River into Luggett down the western side of Lake Dunstan into Cromwell. And then the question is it still the same trail moving down the Cromwell Gorge?
Driving there, it's about an hour at least to drive, so you're talking at least 100 kilometres.
Yeah. Okay, no, thanks, Jeff.
That's right.
Is there any further questions for Jeff? I'd like to, if someone like to move that we accept the presentation from Jeff, board member of the New Zealand Cycle Trail Trust, to be received. I'd like to move that. Would someone like to second it? Tim, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks very much, Jeff.
Thanks very much. Bye now.
All right. The next presentation is from the West Coast Wilderness Trust. Manager is Jackie Gurdon. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you. Yep. I'll just be very brief and just highlight just a little bit of the work that's been done lately and with various hats that I've got on. So there are a number of new panels about to go out into the grey area. There's 8 of them going out around the river mouth. That's an area that we hadn't had a lot of panels on. We put a lot through. I think we put about 10 or 12 out through sort of the Westland through to Kamara and Tiramacau last year, and now we've got these ones going out. We also should have corrected there's an area when you come out of the treetop walk that people were confused with signage, so there should be another sign in there. The other thing that we've been working on, and I'm not sure exactly where you're at, Simon, with this, but we've had a lot of flooding in the Mahanapua area, and worked out a plan a few weeks ago for how to actually divert riders when that waterway, the boardwalks, when they flood. So that we had that out probably for almost a week and a half, couple of weeks. A few weeks back, and particularly for people coming up north, and they've travelled all that way and they can't take their bikes, and particularly their e-bikes, through that. So that's something that needs a lot of attention. I'm not sure where you're at with Simon. You might want to perhaps comment at the end. The other thing from New Zealand Cycle Trails Conference, and before that, I'd been talking to a gentleman who is a disabled rider. And we're looking at him coming down and spending some time and auditing our trail. I think we've got probably one of the most accessible trails in the country, and to actually get that checked over, we've had a number of riders going over it in various types of chairs, and to actually get that checked out, do a bit of a warrant, I think we may see a number of, many more riders like that. So it's wonderful to have the trail and the parts of the trail that are really accessible promoted. So that's the intent with that. So that's a little bit of just a trail update. I put forward very, very much an overview of the 7 Golden Gullies, the Mahanapua Loop, and the Gentle Annie project through to Chris Hickford. to potentially be considered for Jobs for Nature. So that's in its early phases, but I just waved that flag. I've also been working, or started some work with Simon around getting the proposal for the business case for the weirs together. So talking with Mark Walter from MB about that, and there's an application form that we've got to fill out with that. So that's the construction side of things. I thought I'd just make a couple of comments on, we have the survey data that comes in every month, and that it comes in on the first of the month. And with the last month having been quite wet, we've actually had quite a number of requests for the fact that we need more shelters out on the trail. That was probably one of the main ones. And we've also got to have a wee bit of a look at the signage in around Hokitika and the bridge there, because people, when they're travelling north, are obviously missing the signs. So that's just something we need to pick up on. They're probably the key things, and also the fading of the kilometre distance signage out there. So that probably needs us to have a look at as well. So that's just a sort of a bit of a general update of 2 or 3 things that are happening within the Wilderness Trail and the other hats that I wear.
Thanks, Jackie. Any questions from anyone?
Yeah, Jackie, Simon here. Have you been doing any work with Tourism West Coast on, I suppose, domestic tourism? And can you give the group an update if you have?
We have done a considerable body of work with that following COVID. So we had a whole marketing campaign with Tourism West Coast that we've done, and Tourism West Coast, or Development West Coast Tourism, has also funded our brochure distribution as well too. So we've been quite strategic with that. People question the value of brochures. It's certainly something that's measured on the survey, but we've actually put those where other trails are. So instead of just willy-nilly putting them out, we've specifically gone to where the other great rides and the very popular spots are, and particularly places like Wanaka, around the Otago Rail Trail, around Alps to Ocean, around Queenstown, and some of the North Island places as well too. So yeah, definitely working in with Jim and his team on the promotion of the trail, and had good support from them as well.
Take ahead, Jackie. When you did the survey from people requesting the shelters, did they say whereabouts they like the shelters?
So I'll just give you a wee bit of background on it. So every month we do surveys for New Zealand cycle trails. So everyone in the country does them. So the questions are fairly standard. So we haven't actually surveyed them about, do you want shelters? They get a chance to say where our trail could improve. And this was one of the things that came out. They didn't actually say where they wanted them. So I guess that's up to us to look at the different places and probably space them evenly throughout. But with the rain we've had, it definitely came out more strongly than I've noticed it in the past. So yeah.
Oh no, that's good.
Yeah.
Thanks,
unfortunately,
Jackie.
no locations.
No, that's fine. Yeah, thanks for that. Any other questions for Jackie? Would someone like to move that Jackie Gurdon, Trail Manager, Wilderness Trail, be received? I'll move that. Tim, will you second it? Thank you. Thanks, Jackie. The next item 7, is staff report, which will be presented by Lewis Sparks.
So through the chair, I'll take you through that. I'm just going to try and share my computer first.
Okay. Thank you.
Whoops. My other one. Thank you. share the screen, do I? So sorry about that. So you recall the last committee meeting we presented and tabled, I suppose a capital plan looking out, I think it was only 13 years. On reflection and working with the district assets team and trying to finalise what we should be focusing our efforts on, and also balancing the affordability for such a small council. We've had a rehash of what our forecast project plan is. Just to put a caveat on all of this, if there's funding available, i.e. through Jobs for Nature or MBL quite keen to pull one job ahead, or we get, I suppose, a better share in terms of the cost share with either MB or some other partner, we can still bring the project forward. I'm not going to commit a project to, I suppose, the long-term plan without having the affordability question robust. So what I want to do is just run through those various projects again and I suppose pitch where we've got to in terms of the funding elements. And I know, Jackie, you've raised the concept of bringing two of the big projects into a new fund. So that's a great initiative. If we can get it pretty well funded 100%, it would be fantastic. So we still have the money put aside for the two weirs, or for the weirs up at Kawa Paradise. So that hasn't changed. The Tour Macau section, we've added 50k in for next year's budget to complete the rebuild of that section. Canary Water Race, so that is a big safety element for that area, and that is basically realigning the boardwalks up here to take away the safety issues that are associated with that. And we have the minimal viewing platform. We've increased that cost to 70,000, but there's a share component which I'll take you through shortly. And then we have some year-on-year safety trail enhancements, year-on-year, some minor infrastructure works, which include some of the safety, the shelters you talked about, Jackie, bike stands, toilets, and signage. So that's still scheduled. That's our, I suppose, looking for next year. It comes up to a $600,000 cost. And I just want to scroll down to how I see that working with co-investors. So the co-investors, we've got a number of potential co-investors, one being MB under the MGR fund. That's built into two parcels. One is a straightforward enhancement, which we see as a 50% co-share. The second component is an enhancement and safety element, which is we're proposing 75% share from Wellington, 25% council. And we'll also have an NZTA contribution for some of the off-road elements, getting cyclists off roads. So how does that look in terms of each project? So what I've done is broken down each project in terms of what I see as the cost share element. So as you can see, for the boardwalks, for like the bridges, we see that as a safety element, which would see us only contributing 25% of that, which would be a $75,000 rateable project going forward for the next year. So that's how I've built this concept. For each of those has to be taken into account for each of those various components. So walking forward year by year, the following year we'll be proposing to do next big project is Totra Bridge, and that's seen over repair of the upgraded Totra Bridge out at Ross to the value of 700,000 over 2 years. So what we tried to do is focus on doing one major project pretty well over 2 years. I'm only going to focus on the big projects looking forward. The next big project is the Mahinapur boardwalks and bridges, and this is in partnership with DOC and MB. So Nicole has committed some funds in their capital plan to help upgrade the Mahinapur boardwalks, to bring them, and they're mainly a safety element as well. So when we look for the next 5 years, we're proposing to work on all the safety elements associated with the current infrastructure to bring them up to the right standard. Another one, looking once again forward to 26, 27 through 28, is to get riders off-road at Lake Canary stage 2. That is still a significant safety element to it, but it's a very big cost at almost $1.5 million. So we've pushed that out a few years, out into year 6 and 7 of the 10-year plan. The next big one is Mahinapur Lake Loop at 3.7 million. That needs quite a big business case to actually progress. And like Jackie said, they've put that forward for Jobs for Nature as a potential funding source to do that work. But if we want to do it in our 10-year plan, it's going to have to be sitting out further for us to be able to afford it. The next one would be Pyramid Hill. That may change based on any work that we're working on with the weirs at the moment. So that's still out there in year 8. Year 9, we'll see 7 Golden Gullies as a concept. Year 10 would be the Ruatap race. I think that might be further than year 10. It's probably year 13. Following on years 10 through, we've actually increased the cycleway safety enhancements and upgrades up to a 64, which is pretty well double, mainly because the track is starting to age by that point, and we expect some, I suppose, complete rebuilds in some sections, and that'll focus out for the next 10 years. So pretty well 100K to minor infrastructure enhancements through years 10 through to 20. We haven't looked any further forward than that, but we'll take that as it's pretty well the same, maybe slightly increased again from 20 to years 30. So what does that mean for a council in terms of overall commitment for the next 20 years? If we based it on the fair split, that would see council contributing $4.7 million over the next 20 years to cycleway. The main component coming out of Major Great Rides, which is around $6 million. A small component from DOC of 200,000, which is the Mahinapur walkway, and NZTA $500,000. So I think we've got a pretty solid plan. I suppose the challenge for us is when funding becomes available, that we having it in the plan is the first thing, so that we can say that we've got a contribution to any project going forward. It comes down to where the council want to bring funding forward to put applications for other funding mechanisms. That's it, Chair. Happy to take questions on that. There may be future enhancements that come up in the future that we want to address. One thing that's not in here is Shantytown, which we are still waiting on a concept, and this will sit under Grou District Council's LTP. I don't know, Jackie, if you've got an update on Shantytown?
Yeah, just a small update on Shantytown. So following the meeting that we had, Peter Haddock was going to meet with the landowners concerned, and Peter has been extremely busy and put things on hold. So yeah, we're just waiting till he's had time to do that. I think there are about 3 landowners that he's wanting to talk to himself personally. So that's just sitting on hold until he's done that.
You expect to be in starting next year's LTP or?
That, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Can I ask 2 questions, please? Just on the Mahinapua boardwalks, in the last month or the last couple of months, that's really elevated and given us problems, and the level of the flooding and the health and safety side to it, because riders pretty much have to go up the state highway, or if they miss that, they're going around the Rimu way. And with crossing the boardwalk when there is some water on it, I understand there was a significantly sized eel on it at one time, which probably prohibits people, and the same with using e-bikes. So I wonder if we could have a discussion with DOC and see if there's a way through health and safety that we can bring that forward from 23 and make that happen a little bit sooner. So just float that one. It's one that we haven't had these problems with Mahinapua Creek as extensively before, but it's becoming quite a headache, when I have to cancel the close the trail, and it's been a lot lately, and I gather it's probably going to continue.
Yeah, I suppose the next 4 or 5 years, it's either we're doing Totra Bridge or we can bring the Mahinapua loop forward. It doesn't really, Totra Bridge is, we've got a very thorough report from the Dells on that, and there was a commitment to do that work with MB. So we've deferred it, and I suppose it's a trade-off between which one comes first. Just comes down to affordability, really.
Or trying to source the funding. And my other question was around Totra Bridge. So when I talked to Andrew Coleman from Heritage New Zealand, if that we don't have to have that bridge submitted to be considered for a category 1 or 2 to get funding, external funding for that. But it is elevated if it sits within the council's heritage assets, if it's identified. So that's something else to keep in mind if we want to get funding, external funding for that. I'm not sure where that sits, Simon, and if you've considered that.
If it came off council contribution as a fund, that can definitely start. It really comes down to council's affordability, and obviously MB contributing their portion. So definitely we would consider that as an element. I'm not sure what sort of funding level they would see in that space, but we'll have a talk offline on that one.
Yeah, and it wasn't funding; it was just identifying it as a heritage asset.
Yeah, we could do that definitely, but we don't want to put it into category because it complicates what we can do to it then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Tanker here, Jackie, just on that Mahinapua boardwalk stuff. I think that is a real concern because of the safety aspect of it, particularly when there's the cyclists who get the only access they have is on the main road. So it is a safety issue, and I think we should really look at trying to bring that one forward a bit.
So you'd like to swap one round for the other?
I think so. Like if Jackie's sort of saying it was closed for a week, and there's a lot of cyclists out there, so unless we get another route off the main road, I've been looking at trying to bring that one forward.
Okay. The other factor that comes to play with that is you've got the whole treetop walk and potential cluster of businesses there, and when the trail is closed and we're directing people straight up the highway, they can lose quite a lot of business from it. So I don't think it's so much an issue for the hoppers, because they're right on that roadside. But certainly, if the less business interruption and the more financial benefit back into businesses is a key driver of what we're trying to do. So we don't want to have all them coming up the main highway if we could at all avoid it.
I agree with that, Jackie. Yep.
So, to Chair, so we can accept this as a locked program for the asset management plan with the proviso we bring the Manipur boardwalks forward and move Total Bridge back.
Agree with that? Everyone happy with that?
Has Don got any more money?
Not that I know about. But so what year would that be bringing it forward to?
So what we will do, bring it to 2022 to 23.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I did just try, I think Nicole has some funding allocated in there.
Yeah, she does. It just needs iwi consultation. Is the only thing that would hold it up. But 2022 is plenty of time, I think.
What impact, Simon, will it have on the bridge if you push that out?
So the bridge has been there for over 100 years. So like we carry risk right now. So we would have to reassess that risk with Vidal's if there's any deterioration since the last report. That's the only factor. It's not going anywhere. I think that the other discussion we were talking about was what would we spend the money on the bridge, or would we put another crossing and leave the bridge as a standalone? So $700,000 buys a lot of bridge repair, or could put a standalone swing bridge beside it, which may be an option in the cheaper version, potentially as an outcome. And not spend any money on the bridge.
That's an option.
It is an option, so we have to evaluate that. And the quality of swing bridges has improved significantly, and the one of the Hakatika Gorge is a good example of a good one.
Well, the one at Mahana, the Heritage Bridge there was about 70,000 they spent on it at the start. This is about 15 years ago. Then it went from 30,000 to 200,000 to just upgrade it, and doesn't stop there. Those heritage buildings cost a lot of money, but heritage structures are even more. They're those like a big sponge. They just take it all in. Anyway, any further talk on that? Okay, thanks, Simon. So, someone like to move that we received the revised West Coast Wilderness Trail 20-year work plan from Louis Spark and Simon Bastian. Been received.
How about I move it this time and you second?
Oh, good. Thank you very much, Tim. So,
can I congratulate them on that work, because it is a major body of work that's really important, and I think it's really well done.
Thanks, Jackie.
And just through the chair, just under, I suppose, general business, we've just like to announce we have received, we don't have a general business in the agenda, but we've just received funding for completion of the Kawaka weirs. So the work that Trustpower have done for the bridge repair and also the weirs have been approved by MB, and so we'd just like to thank Tim in this meeting for the work that they've done in that space. Thank Trustpower.
It's the Kawaka Settling Basin Bridge and the Wainini Bridge.
That's correct.
Yeah, the AW Bridge, and I'll give you a quick update. That is just awaiting completion of the handrails.
Okay.
And then that'll be
available
open for use. Yeah, so that will be before Christmas.
Thanks, Tim, for that. Anything further from anyone? Right, time is 5 to 4. I like to close the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thanks, Jackie.